The tennis world stood still. Alex Eala had just conquered the impossible, dethroning Iga Swiatek on center court. A nation of 120 million held its breath. Then came the collapse. The double faults. The unforced errors. The dream that burned so brightly turned to ash in a single, devastating moment. But what really happened? What did Joan Bosch see from the sidelines that no one else did? Now for the first time, the coach of the Rafa Nadal Academy reveals the shocking truth behind the Wimbledon nightmare that destroyed everything. From the moment Alex Eala stepped onto the hallowed grass of the All England club, something felt different. This wasn't just another Grand Slam. This was destiny calling. The 21-year-old Filipina, trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy under the watchful eye of Joan Bosch, had already made history by becoming the first player from the Philippines to reach the fourth round of a major in the Open era. Her journey was nothing short of miraculous. She battled past Maya Joint in a grueling three-setter, then produced a performance for the ages against the defending champion Iga Swiatek, stunning the world with a 7-6, 11-9, 6-2 victory that sent shockwaves across the globe. The Filipino fans, numbering in the millions, erupted in celebration. Watch parties sprang up across the archipelago, with arenas opening their doors 4 hours early just so supporters could secure their seats. Eala dedicated her victory to all the girls with ruffled socks and chubby cheeks, a poignant tribute to her younger self, who trained every day after school with light-up shoes and an unshakable dream. But as her coach, Joan Bosch, would later reveal, the pressure was already mounting in ways no one could see. The weight of a nation's expectations, the relentless media scrutiny, and the emotional toll of back-to-back battles against the world's best had begun to take their silent toll on the young champion. The dream was beautiful, but it was also fragile, and Bosch knew it. What the cameras didn't capture was the sleepless night Eala endured before the Paolini match, the frantic phone calls to her family back in Manila, and the overwhelming surge of anxiety that replaced her usual pre-match calm. Bosch observed her warm-up with a sinking feeling. Her footwork was sluggish, her racket speed uncharacteristically hesitant. He realized then that the euphoria of beating Swiatek had drained her emotional reserves completely. The very passion that propelled her to victory was now the anchor dragging her down. She was no longer playing for herself. She was playing for every Filipino who had ever dared to dream. And that burden, Bosch admitted, was simply too heavy for a 21-year-old to carry into the most pressurized arena on earth. As Eala prepared for the biggest match of her young career, an unexpected presence in the stands would prove to be both a blessing and a curse. Seated in the prestigious royal box, watching every move with keen eyes, was none other than tennis royalty itself, 20-time Grand Slam champion Roger Federer. For any player, the presence of such a legend would be a moment of pride and motivation. But for a 21-year-old from the Philippines, carrying the hopes of 120 million people on her shoulders, it was something else entirely. Jasmine Paolini, her Italian opponent, later admitted she was overwhelmed by Federer's presence, confessing she felt nervous knowing her childhood idol was watching. But for Eala, the effect was devastating. What should have been a moment of inspiration became a paralyzing burden. Joan Bosch watched from the player's box, his heart sinking as he saw the signs of distress in his protégé's body language. The first service game began with a double fault, a rare and costly error from the usually composed Filipina. Another double fault followed, and then a serve so wide it hit the net post. The magic that had carried her past Swiatek seemed to evaporate in the presence of the Swiss maestro. Bosch, who had coached Eala through countless victories, knew in that moment that something was terribly wrong. The royal box had become a gilded cage, and his star player was trapped inside it. Beyond the mere presence of Federer, Bosch noted the psychological warfare at play. The camera kept cutting to the legend's stoic face, and with every unforced error Eala made, the silence in the stadium grew more deafening. Eala's usually laser-focused eyes were darting toward the stands, seeking validation that never came. She was playing not against Paolini, but against the ghost of tennis perfection sitting courtside. Bosch tried to signal her to focus on the ball, on the tactics they had drilled 1,000 times, but his gestures were met with blank, overwhelmed stares. The champion who had conquered Swiatek with fearless aggression had been replaced by a nervous rookie who couldn't find the court with her first serve. From the coach's perspective, Joan Bosch saw the cracks forming long before the final score confirmed the worst. Eala's game plan had been meticulously crafted: exploit Paolini's backhand, dictate with the forehand, and serve with the precision that had dismantled the world's best. But none of it materialized. The 70-mile-per-second serves that had been so effective against Swiatek were now floating through the air like wounded birds, inviting Paolini to pounce. The Italian, a finalist at Wimbledon in 2024, punished every hesitation, every moment of doubt. Bosch, a veteran coach who had guided Carlos Moya to multiple ATP titles and helped Spain win the 2004 Davis Cup, had seen his share of tactical collapses. But this was different. This wasn't a failure of strategy, it was a failure of nerve. Eala, who had trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy since she was 13 and had graduated alongside Swiatek herself, was supposed to be beyond this. She had beaten Grand Slam champions, reached WTA 1000 semifinals, and climbed into the world's top 30. Yet here she was, crumbling on the biggest stage of her life. Bosch tried everything: timeouts, tactical adjustments, words of encouragement. But nothing could stop the avalanche. The breaks of serve came and went like waves. And with each point, the dream slipped further away. Bosch specifically pointed to the statistical anomaly that haunted the match. Eala's first serve percentage dropped from a stellar 72% against Swiatek to a dismal 48% against Paolini. That single number told the entire story. Without her primary weapon, she was forced to rely on rally consistency, but her ground strokes, usually so heavy with topspin, were landing short in the middle of the court, allowing Paolini to step in and dictate. Bosch recalled screaming the tactical code words they had prepared for this exact scenario, but Eala's processing speed had slowed dramatically under the crushing weight of the moment. She was playing on autopilot, and the autopilot was malfunctioning. Every champion knows that Grand Slams are won and lost in moments of supreme pressure. For Alex Eala, that moment came at 3-4 down in the decisive third set. The scoreboard read 3-4, Paolini serving, and the Eala had just fought back from a set down to level the match. The momentum was swinging, the crowd was roaring, and for a brief moment, the dream seemed alive again. Then came the serve, and another double fault. The sound that followed was deafening, a collective gasp from the center court crowd, the sharp intake of breath from the Filipino fans watching in the stands, and the silent scream from Joan Bosch in the players' box. In that single, catastrophic moment, the match slipped through Eala's fingers. One long forehand later, and Paolini was serving for the match. The Filipinas' historic run, which had captured the imagination of an entire nation and made her a symbol of hope for millions, was over. Bosch, who had been by her side through every victory and every defeat, watched helplessly as the dream crumbled into dust. The final score, 4-6, 6-4, 3-6, was a cruel reminder of how thin the line between triumph and tragedy truly is. But as Eala would later say, "I gave everything that I could. I did everything that I could do today, so I'm proud of that." Yet Bosch offered a more painful analysis of that specific moment. He revealed that in the changeover prior to that game, Eala had whispered to him that she couldn't feel her legs, a classic symptom of adrenal fatigue and nervous exhaustion. The double fault wasn't a technical error. It was a physical manifestation of a body that had simply run out of adrenaline. Bosch admitted that he should have pulled her aside for a longer medical timeout, should have forced her to breathe, to reset. But in the heat of the battle, he hesitated, and that hesitation cost them the match. The double fault will haunt Eala for years, but it will also teach her the brutal lesson that tennis is as much a war against the mind as it is against the opponent across the net. So what really destroyed Alex Eala's Wimbledon dream? Joan Bosch, in a rare and revealing interview, finally provided the answer that no one expected. It wasn't Paolini's superior play. It wasn't the grass courts or the pressure of the occasion. It was something far more insidious, the weight of history itself. Bosch revealed that Eala had been carrying the hopes of an entire nation on her shoulders, and the emotional burden had become unbearable. The queues that snaked around the Grand Slam grounds, the viewing parties held across the Philippines, the comparisons to boxing legend Manny Pacquiao, all of it had created an invisible prison around the young champion. Bosch, who had coached Eala through her rise from a promising junior to a top 30 professional, admitted that the mental toll of the Swiatek victory had been far greater than anyone realized. The celebration had been so euphoric that the calm-down was inevitable, and when Federer appeared in the royal box, the pressure reached its breaking point. But Bosch also revealed something else, a glimmer of hope. "Eala," he said, "possesses a rare quality that sets her apart from other players, the ability to learn. She can learn, and that's rare," Bosch declared. The Wimbledon defeat, as painful as it was, would become the foundation for something greater. The dream may have been destroyed at the All England club, but the champion who emerged from the ashes would be stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And as Bosch said, "I believe we are ready." Delving deeper into Bosch's revelation, he emphasized that the destruction was not a failure, but a necessary demolition of an old version of Eala that was never built to withstand such monumental expectations. He compared it to a phoenix burning in the flames of center court, only to rise with a new, hardened mentality. He disclosed that Eala has already scheduled intensive sports psychology sessions and a rigorous training block designed specifically to handle the post-upset crash that he believes derailed her at Wimbledon. Bosch firmly stated that this loss, as bitter as it tastes, will recalibrate her entire approach to the Grand Slam season. The dream wasn't destroyed. It was postponed, reshaped, and forged in the crucible of the most painful defeat of her life. He closed his interview with a chilling promise: "You haven't seen the last of her. The next time she steps on center court, she will be unrecognizable." If you enjoyed this latest tennis update and want to stay ahead of the biggest stories in the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to WorldZone right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. See you in the next video.